afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the channel. This is the Akinlo Show, and you are in for another beautiful video today. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope your year is off to a great start. Today in this video, we're talking about how to conduct a retreat. This is that time of the year when, most people are thinking about planning, corporate organizations, even personally, families, planning and retreating. So how do you conduct a retreat? How exactly do you conduct a retreat? That's the question we're asking on today's show. And how exactly do you do that? How exactly do you do that? And that's the question we're asking on today's show. And I'm sure it is going to be impactful for you. All right. So the first question I want to answer is, what is a retreat? What is a retreat? A retreat is a time set apart to be with the Lord, to obtain renewal, direction, and fresh empowerment. That is what a retreat is. A retreat is a time set aside to be with the Lord, to obtain renewal, direction, and fresh empowerment. That is what it could be corporate, it could be personally, it could be with your wife, it could be with your family, it could be with your co-workers, but you're just setting out time to either work on a specific thing. For corporate organizations, it could be for team bonding and things like that. It's just a time that you've set apart for renewal and direction on particular issues of your life. But the challenge is not everybody has the conventional wisdom when it comes to retreat. At least this is how I understood it growing up, is that you have to go to some remote part of town. You have to go to a mountain. You have to go to Orioke Alakowe or Orioke Yano, or, rent a fancy hotel or go to some convention center or some retreat center that you have to pay money to do. That was my understanding of how you conduct a retreat. You have to separate yourself from people. But not many people have the leeway or the resources to do those kinds of. Sometimes it can be expensive, sometimes it can be protracted. Not everybody can do that. If you can't do that, you find yourself in that situation. For example, you're a student and you cannot take extended time off. You can't take 2 days off. You can't take 3 days off. Or you're even working. You are a professional whose work is demanding and you can't take all that time off. How then should you think about retreating? Does it mean you cannot conduct a retreat? That's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. It is a time that you set apart. Everybody needs it. Why should you retreat? Jesus, who is our perfect example, if you're a Christian, is a perfect example if you're a Christian. He retreated many times. Especially when it came to making important decisions. Jesus spent time by himself alone. Before he chose his disciples, for example, he spent time alone. You can find that in Luke chapter 6, verse 12. He spent time alone. Before he told the disciples about his death, he spent time alone. Luke chapter 9, verse 18, he spent time alone, because retreating gives you perspective. It gives you perspective. It keeps the big picture in sight. Before Jesus also went to the cross, he retreated. That's in the Garden of Gethsemane. So retreating, we see for the most important person that ever walked the face of the earth, retreating, spending time alone in solitude, was a critical part of his life. Spending time alone was a critical part of his life and living. So that's a reason why you and I should retreat. We should spend time alone. Spend time alone with God. So we've talked about what a retreat is. We've talked about why we should retreat. In fact, one of the most significant things in the life of Jesus happened to him during a retreat. on the Mount of Transfiguration. One of the most important things that cemented his life's purpose and destiny happened to him on the Mount of Transfiguration when, as it were, the law, Moses and Elijah came and gave him a stamp of approval on what he was about to do. So very important that we spend time retreating. As a matter of fact, I think that whatever is preventing you from spending time retreating is guaranteed to limit your greatness. I'll say that again. Whatever prevents you from spending time alone is guaranteed to limit your greatness. If there's anything that wants to prevent you from spending time alone, I'm convinced that you may not know what you're missing, but that thing is likely limiting your greatness. All right. So I've talked about why we should retreat, but then what should happen during a retreat? What should happen during a retreat? If you're a Christian, during a retreat, you should offer thanksgiving to God for where you've been, how He has kept you. For example, you're retreating for the new year. You offer thanksgiving to God for keeping you through the last year and allowing you to see the new year. You offer thanksgiving to God. Another thing that should happen during a retreat should be that you go into a retreat with a good dose of honesty. You go into a retreat with a good dose of honesty. One, honesty with yourself, and also honesty with God. Honesty with yourself and also honesty with God. There is no point spending time alone if you are going to deceive yourself, if you are going to sugarcoat things, if you're not going to be upfront with yourself, if you're not going to be open about your failures and the things that you are disappointed about or you've been disappointed about. You have to be open about those things. And you have to be open with God too. There's no point, forming for God anyway. He knows everything. But He is still drawn to a sincere heart. God is still particularly drawn to a sincere heart. So it's important. When we go into a retreat, we are not only sincere with ourselves, but we're also sincere with God and honest with God. When we go into a retreat, we also want to go with a good dose of humility and a sense of submission. You tell God that you are man, you don't know everything, and you are submitted to His will. You yield to His will. Submit yourself under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you in due time. So we're going to retreat with a sense of reverence, a sense of submission to the will of God, a sense of knowing that we don't know everything. We don't even know what tomorrow holds. But we're just trying to search the heart of God. We're trying to probe into things that are hidden, things that are not seen, so that we can obtain direction for the future. So we have a sense of humility and a sense of submission to the will of God. During a retreat also, we should pray. You should pray. You should pray. You should ask for things. You should pray the prayers of petition, prayers of supplication. You should intercede for people, for people connected to you, your family members and things like that. So we should also do that during a retreat. So those are some elements that I think are important during a retreat. And finally, we should expect to be instructed and energized during a retreat. You should expect to be instructed and energized during a retreat. This is very important. We already said that a retreat is what? Is a time set apart with the Lord to obtain renewal, direction, and fresh empowerment. That is the purpose of the retreat, to obtain renewal and direction. You see, in life, we all get tired. We get worn out. So when you've been going around the same mountain and around the same hill over and over again, the daily minutiae of things, going to work, coming back, taking care of the kids, taking care of your house, taking care of your husband, taking care of your wife, these things wear us out. It wears us out. And that's the purpose of a retreat, to infuse new life, infuse new hope, give you fresh perspective on things, allow you see things that you are not seeing before. So you expect to be instructed, and you expect to be energized for another lap in your life's journey. You expect to be energized. You expect to be infused with strength, supernatural strength for another lap of your journey here on earth. It could be another 6 months. It could be another 12 months. It could be more than that. But you have to be expectant. The Bible tells us that the expectations of the righteous shall not be cut short. So we have an expectation during a retreat. But then the question is, yes, so we have an expectation during a retreat. I didn't know my video was not on there. But let's keep cracking on here. Next question is, how do you then retreat? I talked about the fact that, not everybody has the wherewithal, the resources to go to a far-flung place, a distant land, or to go on a mountain, not everybody has the resources or the freedom or not everybody can do that. There's responsibilities of work, responsibilities of school, responsibilities of family that may prevent you from taking an elongated time off. But that shouldn't discourage us, and that's the whole point of this video, is to encourage you that even though you cannot find that, you can still retreat in your house. You can still retreat in your house. So how then do you retreat? You find a quiet place. That's the whole point. You set time apart. It doesn't have to be 2 days. It doesn't have to be 1 week. It can be, if you have the freedom and the way your life is set up allows you to take that time off. But if the way your life is set up does not allow you to do that, you find 5 hours, say. You find, 3 hours. You find 8 hours during the day. You could take 1 day off work and say that, okay, for these 5 hours, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to seek the Lord. I'm going to seek the Lord. This is very important, that you just find the time. You find the time even if you can't go to a distant place. You say, okay, for 5 hours today, this weekend, or for 8 hours this weekend, I am just going to spend time alone with the Lord. I'm going to shut the doors and spend time alone with the Lord. This is important. And this is something that I think everyone can do. So you find a quiet place in your house, or it could be in a nearby place that wouldn't cost you too much. And you tell those around you. This is how I'm just laying out some of the mechanisms, if you like. You tell those around you. There's nothing mystical about spending time alone. There's nothing mystical about it. It's not a cult. There's a personal dimension to our relationship with God, and but it's not secret. There's nothing secretive about it. There's a personal dimension to it, but it's not secretive. That's why even when you give your life to Jesus, there's a public dimension to it. There's a public acknowledgement that, okay, this is the decision I've made. So you don't have to be so secretive about, I'm going to spend time alone. In fact, those around you should be supportive of your decision to want to go spend time alone. Like I said earlier, anything in your life, anybody in your life that is actively preventing you from spending time alone, I strongly believe that person or that thing is likely limiting your greatness. All right. So you tell those around you, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend some time alone. I'm going to spend time alone to receive renewal, direction, and fresh empowerment for the next couple of hours, or for the next couple of days. And so you tell them that that's what you're going to do, and they should be supportive of you. You tell them how long, and you also determine how long you're going to be away for. You determine how long you're going to spend there. So you don't spend time. You don't just go indefinitely. So I think those are some of the elements that we can do. Some of the things we can do to spend time alone with God. And then finally, of course, you want to be expectant. Like I said, expect to be instructed. While we expect to be instructed, however, it is possible that you don't feel or hear anything after your retreat. It's not impossible that you don't feel or hear anything after your retreat. Does it mean you have wasted your time? I don't think so. I don't think you've wasted your time. Even if you don't feel or hear anything, you've not wasted your time. because God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. The thing that God rewards during a retreat, it is the simple act of quieting every other thing, setting every other voice apart, and focusing solely on God. That is what is rewarded. It is not the length of time per se that is rewarded. It is the simple act of saying, God, for the next 5 hours, for the next 2 hours, you and I alone, you alone will be the object, the solitary object of my focus. That is what God rewards. That is what is pleasing to God. And that is what God. So if you don't hear anything during a retreat, if the heavens don't crack open and say, this is my beloved son, or this is my beloved daughter, in whom I am well pleased, hear him, hear him. If that does not happen during your retreat, does it mean you've wasted your time? No, you've not wasted your time. In the process of time, God will show up for you in a way that is supernatural, in a way that you cannot explain, because he rewards those who diligently seek him. This is very important. So we don't waste our time, even if you don't hear anything, if you don't hear any word, if you don't hear any word of knowledge, of course, when you're praying to in a retreat, you have to read your Bible. And that's where direction comes from. That's where the direction comes from. So you stay in the word, you pray, and you stay in the word, of course, during a retreat. But if you don't feel like something came to you expressly during a retreat, I don't think you've wasted your time. You have done a very important thing, and God will always reward you. All right. That is all I've got for you today on how to conduct a personal retreat. It doesn't have to be mystical. It doesn't have to be complicated. You simplify it. You know it's important for you, and you try to get it done. You could be in your house. You shut it down yourself. 3 hours, usually better with your fasting, and you go for it, and you expect God to speak to you, and you expect to be re-energized and reinvigorated after your retreat. Very, very important. So, wishing you all the best and wishing you a great time as you plan and conduct your personal retreat. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you again for watching. Until I come your way next time, bye-bye.